Never can say goodbye. No, 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 no.
Come on!
Never can say goodbye. Even though the pain and heartache seem to find me wherever I go. Oh, I try.
Keep it up!
Try to hide my feelings, they always take the soul. Then you try to say you can't, I always have to say no. Tell me why is it so that I things I do and I
outside of a bowling alley.
This comes from police search warrants in which they laid out evidence in the case and what led them to arrest Patrick Clark for that murder. Our Zach Lajway is in the newsroom with the new details. Zach, good morning.
Sophia, according to the warrant, Takeoff and Quavo, members of the group Migos, were in town to visit a music producer named Jay Prince. They played basketball at a local gym and then had a private party at the bowling alley on October 31st. According to the warrant, they played a dice game and someone lost a large sum of money. We're going to take you back to the scene on what happened early that morning. It was about 2 o'clock on November 1st. 34 people were gathered outside the bowling alley. This, of course, was after closing time. Quavo argued with several men about the dice game. This is according to police. The fight got physical, and police say video shows 2 people firing shots. One of them, a man by the name of Willie Bland. This is the first time we're hearing his name. According to the warrant, Bland travels with Takeoff and Quavo. Police say Bland's shots were not fired in the direction of Takeoff. They say those bullets that struck Takeoff came from a gun held by Patrick Clark. This is Clark in court earlier this week. Police say Clark was also holding a wine bottle at the time, which he left at the scene with his fingerprints. Takeoff was hit twice with bullets from the same gun. When police arrested Clark, they say he did have a gun on him at the time of the arrest, that of a similar caliber.
Welcome back to the channel once again, fam. Early morning recordings equals deeper voice. I promise you, it'll lighten up as I go. But we have some updated information for you as of right now, because as we know, Takeoff's murder has resulted in a pair of arrests, but new details are continuing to emerge from the tragic night that took his life. And let me go ahead and start everything by saying this. I'm going to be reading this more or less verbatim or word for word, so if there's something that seems like it doesn't make a lot of sense in how it's worded, it's not me. It's just what we're reporting on, I promise you. But if there's something that's a little too abstract, I'll try to make it make a little bit more sense. But also, let me add in this one thought before we get started, because this kind of confused me just a little bit as I was first reading everything. Remember, it was reported that there were 9 .40 caliber casings and 1 9mm casing. Those casings does not necessarily account for how many bullets were fired. Those are just the casings that were recovered, because a little bit of everything kind of didn't add up, because they haven't actually said what caliber of weapon was used or what caliber of weapon actually killed Takeoff. So don't get confused like I did when you go to adding up like the casing amounts and the bullets fired and the different stories. I know that is confusing, but that part of the confusion will be answered with this particular segment. So here goes. Per the affidavit, a lab report created by firearms examiner R. Hucano of the Houston Forensic Science Center, or HFSC as I'll call it from here on out, which stated that all 9 of the .40 caliber casings had been fired from a single weapon and the 9mm casing from a different weapon. Hoo boy, buckle up. The video showed that a large black male, identified as Willie Bland, was one of the men firing a gun. However, the trajectory taken by any bullet fired from his location at the time of any given discharge was not consistent with the injury sustained to Kirshnik Ball, Takeoff, given Ball's body positioning throughout the duration of the gunfire. So basically what that's saying is that it confirms that any bullet fired by Willie Bland could not possibly have hit Takeoff. So this kind of confirms that that can be taken out. Continuing, your affiant, or investigators as they're referred to, whichever you want to look at it as, believes that the video evidence shows the following. A black male, later identified as Patrick Clark, whom Affiant had previously developed as a possible suspect, pulled a gun and fired multiple rounds in the direction of the complainant seconds before the complainant collapsed to the ground. The complainant in this case being Takeoff once again. The video does not show any other individual shooting a firearm or positioning their bodies to shoot a firearm, as in arm raised in firing position, from the same direction from which Clark was shooting, which, slight pause once again, solidifies him as the shooter based on video evidence. Continuing. On the video, Clark can be seen discharging the firearm several times, with multiple muzzle flashes being visible, and Clark then fled the scene on foot to the nearby House of Blues, where he was captured on closer video surveillance. Clark then returned briefly to the bowling alley, where he was again captured on interior surveillance before fleeing the scene. Surveillance from inside the bowling alley showed that he was carrying a semi-automatic handgun when he went back inside. During the actual shooting, Clark was holding a wine bottle in one hand while he discharged the firearm with the other. Immediately after the shooting, Clark ran over by the House of Blues, where he set the wine bottle down and never came back for it. The aforementioned bottle was collected into evidence during the initial scene investigation, and Affiant made a request to have it processed for latent fingerprints. Later, Affiant received a lab report completed by HFSC, latent print examiner HVU, which stated that a fingerprint matching that of Patrick Clark had been left on the wine bottle. To take a slight pause once again and summarize all that up, they found his prints. That's what got him. Simple as that. Continuing. Additionally, Affiant has compared the high-quality surveillance video recording from inside the bowling alley to a known picture of Clark and has confirmed that it is the same person. So, wrapped up in a nice bow, the accusation would be, we saw this guy on video, we saw him fire a gun, he fired it from a direction that is, well, consistent with where Takeoff was shot or how he was shot, so therefore there's your suspect. And that's essentially how the whole information gathering process works. But I wouldn't really blame anybody if they felt still just a little bit unsatisfied, I guess you could say. Because at the end of the day, the way the information is presented, if it's not explained properly, will make it seem like it is just that, just speculation. But that's how it always is because of the whole innocent until proven guilty concept. But yeah, the only thing that's really bothering me is still the bullet casings found and the calibers of weapon used and the amount of times that a weapon was discharged. Because if DJ Pat discharged a weapon enough to hit Takeoff twice, and Willie Bland fired a weapon enough times to send bullets into the bowling alley, why was there only one 9mm shell casing found and 9 40 cal shell casings found? That's what's not adding up. And then on top of all of that, we still haven't had confirmation of what caliber of bullet actually hit Takeoff, which of course, as we'll still get into a little bit in just a second, which is why they're still looking to search DJ Pat's truck. Those are the things that are still really throwing me off that I don't feel like have been answered yet, but those answers are probably coming soon. Moving on with the rest of the story, Affiant and his partner interviewed Willie Bland, who admitted to firing a weapon at the scene, though he said he did not know the caliber of the weapon. Bland stated that he was part of a traveling group including Takeoff, Quavo, and several other individuals, and stated that they were visiting local music producer Jazz Prince, which included going to a basketball game at a local gym and then going to the party at the bowling alley. Bland stated that he had seen the two males we had identified as Joshua and Watkins throughout the evening at both the basketball game and at the bowling alley, and that he had seen them with guns, which would explain why he was, on guard. Bland stated that he was watching them both when Quavo was arguing with them just before the shooting, and as Quavo turned and walked away, he believed that Joshua said something and began pulling a gun, so he reached out and punched him. Bland advised that he thought the males were about to try and rob Quavo. Bland stated that he shoved the other male when he saw him coming toward him and heard gunfire erupt around him. Bland stated that he believed it was probably Cameron Joshua shooting at him, so he began shooting at Cameron Joshua. Here's the crazy part. That story checks out. Affian observed from his review of the video surveillance recordings described above that at the time the shooting appears to start, Joshua ran back inside the bowling alley and that he was armed with a handgun, but there is no video evidence showing him firing a gun. Affian knows from his scene investigation that 3 gunshots were fired into the bowling alley. Affian believes these bullets are consistent with having been fired by Willie Bland based on his movements and position. So that checks that part of the story out. In your Affian's opinion, these shots could not have caused the injuries to the deceased victim or the living victims due to the shooting angles, positions of the parties, and the complainant's injuries. Once again, just saying that Willie Bland's shots could not have been what killed Takeoff, nor hurt anybody else. In my opinion, it continues, the video evidence supports Bland's statements regarding his actions before, during, and after the shooting. Additionally, the warrant states Takeoff was shot by 2 medium caliber bullets, but it does not state what kind of gun was used once again. Now, police are hoping to search Clark's truck to see if there is a weapon or other evidence that matches the bullets from the scene, and get this, the warrant was also requested based on the fact that Clark wanted to know what would happen to his guns, quote unquote, during booking. So, showing that concern for guns based off you being taken into custody for a shooting, once again, just as I've said in the past, doesn't exactly bode well for the situation. But yeah, there you have it. That is the entire verbatim reading of this latest information. And I kind of gave you my honest opinion throughout, so I'm not going to waste any of your time by, well, reiterating that in a concise way. But hey, you get the idea. Where do we go from here in terms of before we know what's going to be what based off police information giving? Is DJ Pat solo? Was DJ Pat hired? The questions that the majority of us still want to know still have yet to be answered, but that time is coming, I do feel like. But go ahead, drop me your speculation anyway down below, because at this point, it's just a waiting game as far as I'm concerned. And hopefully, the real story will be coming out soon. Either way, that's all we got for you this time around. So we appreciate you as always for tuning in, and keep it locked here if you want to continue staying up to date with the latest and greatest, because you know that's all we got for you. But do me one small favor between now and then, and let's be safe at all times. Until next time, and we'll see you then. Peace.